What is up, guys? T-Rex Medic here, and welcome to our very new channel. So, a little about us. We are a group of medical students, trying to find our own way through medical school. And hopefully, by making this video, it also helps us remember the countless facts that are there in our textbooks. It's very difficult to remember all those small facts. So, moving ahead, please like and subscribe for more content and let us know down in the comments what topic you would like us to upload next. Today, I'll be talking a little about anatomy of the eye. So, for me, ophthalmology is a little bit tedious to do because it's a lot of information about a very small organ. It's a little bit frustrating as well, but hopefully I by making such videos I grow to like the subject. We'll see. So today I'll be covering dimensions, gross anatomy, codes and blood supply of the eyeball. Feel free to fast forward or maybe increase the speed of the video because some of you might require my speed to be slower, some of you might require my speed to be a little faster. So tune to your own preferences. So, coming to the dimensions of the eyeball, I'm just gonna draw a rough sketch to orient you to the various meridians and the axis of the eyeball. So, this would be the anterior pole, and this would be the posterior pole, and this would be the antero-posterior diameter, which is 24 millimeter. Then, okay, so this would be your meridian of the eyeball. So let's just say that horizontal diameter would be this one, which is the 23.5 millimeter, and then coming to the vertical diameter, this would be around 23 millimeters. The circumference of the eyeball would be 75 millimeters, volume would be 6.5 ml, and weight would be 7 grams. I don't think that you need to remember such factual information, but do remember that these dimensions are for a normal adult eyeball. There may be some pluses and minuses. So, coming to the gross anatomy of the eyeball, please bear with me as I'm using simple shapes to depict the anatomy of the eyeball. So, as you might recall, maybe not, maybe that the eyeball is divided into anterior and posterior segments. So, and it's divided by the crystalline lens. So, the lens would be somewhere over here, and it divides the whole eyeball into the anterior and the posterior segment. Now coming to the anterior segment, which is everything anterior to this crystalline lens, I would just be depicting the structures present. This would be the zonules, and then comes the ciliary body, the iris. This aperture would be the pupillary aperture. So let's just write it down. Now, and this would be the cornea. So this anterior segment is divided into two chambers, which is the anterior and the posterior chamber. Everything anterior to the iris is the anterior chamber, and everything posterior to the iris is the posterior chamber. So diagrammatically, everything that's present here is the anterior chamber, and this would be the posterior chamber. A part of ciliary body also forms the division. So Coming to the divisions of the anterior segment, it is divided into anterior and posterior chambers and is chiefly divided by the iris and a part of the ciliary body. So I'm just gonna write it down for your convenience. Anterior chamber, and I'm gonna write the boundaries so that it's easier for you to remember. Anterior chamber anteriorly is bounded by the cornea and posteriorly by the anterior surface of iris and a part of ciliary body, and its contents would be aqueous humor. Coming to posterior chamber, it is bounded anteriorly by posterior surface of iris and a part of ciliary body, posteriorly by lens, and as it's sort of a triangular shape, let's depict this by another color. It's sort of triangular, if you might be able to appreciate. This also has a third boundary, which would be the lateral boundary, bound by the ciliary body. Posteriorly, you can also find the zonules, right? This would be the zonules. This also forms the posterior boundary of the posterior chamber. Content is again aqueous humor, since it's in the anterior segment. Coming to the posterior segment of the eyeball, it contains vitreous humor, and it has structures which are retina, choroid, and the optic disc. So somewhat the layers would be retina, then there comes the choroid on top of it, and there would be sclera again on top of it. The retinal vessels enter through here, and the optic nerve also exits through here, which projects to the visual cortex through the visual pathway. Coming to the contents of the segments of eyeball, in the anterior segment, the contents would be cornea, iris, and lens. In the posterior segment, it would be vitreous humor, retina, choroid, and optic disc. Mnemonic is lens is cloudy. So for L, the whole thing is lens. I is iris. C is cornea. This would be the anterior segment. We require cataract operation. V is vitreous humor. R is retina. C is choroid. And O is optic disc. This will just help you remember. This is a mnemonic made by me. Moving on, coming to the coats of the eyeball, there are three coats: fibrous, vascular, and nervous coat. Coming to the fibrous coat is strong, which gives it a function of protecting the intraocular contents. So the division of fibrous coat is such that the anterior 1/6 is the cornea, and the posterior 5/6 is the sclera. The junction between the anterior 1/6 and the posterior 5/6, which is the junction between the cornea and sclera, is called the limbus, where the conjunctiva is firmly attached over here. Coming to the vascular coat, it's also called uveal coat or uveal tissue, and its main function is nutrition. And it has three parts, which is the iris, ciliary body, and the choroid. The nervous coat chiefly comprises of retina. It has visual functions, and the optic nerve projects to the visual cortex through the visual pathway. So, function of nervous cord is vision. Revising. Function of fibrous cord, protection. Function of vascular cord, nutrition. Function of nervous cord, vision. This is the arterial supply to the eye, which is through the ophthalmic artery, which is a branch of the internal carotid artery. If you want to know the branches of the ophthalmic artery, it's good to know. If you remember, that's good. If you don't, I don't think it would be much of an issue during your undergraduate levels, university exams, but it's good to know. So, the ophthalmic artery has a ocular group of branches and an orbital group of branches. Ocular group consists of central retinal artery, long and short posterior ciliary arteries, and the muscular branches, which is the anterior ciliary arteries. Orbital group consists of lacrimal artery, lateral palpebral artery, recurrent meningeal artery, supraorbital artery, medial palpebral artery, posterior and anterior ethmoidal artery. Dorsal nasal and the supratrochlear artery are the terminal branches. They might ask you in Viva what are the terminal branches of ophthalmic artery. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked this video, and I sincerely hope that you learned something from it. Stay tuned for more. Until then, goodbye, have a nice day, and happy learning.